With over $20 million worth of sales taking place every year, the crochet pattern industry is huge. Crocheters are always hungry for new designs, so you have a ready-made audience waiting for your patterns. Get started writing your own crochet patterns now with my Pattern Writing for Beginners course, where you get access to all of my years of pattern writing experience, together to take you through the process step by step so that you can start making sales on automation. Discover more now at crochetbusinessschool.com/patterns. Welcome to the Crochet Business School podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Thomas, and I'm going to help you to make your crochet business dreams a reality, stitch by stitch, without you being chained to your hook and being able to live that lifestyle you've been dreaming of using the power of your crochet. Today, I wanted to tell you a bit about my own journey into starting writing crochet patterns, because I didn't just start by writing patterns. I started my crochet business the same way most people do, by selling what I made. And for me, it was a whole journey. It took years before I made the leap into writing crochet patterns. And it wasn't an easy thing to decide to do. It was a very scary thing. But I was also quite determined, because I wasn't ready to give up on my dream of having a crochet business. And I'd reached a point where it was either quit completely or do the scary thing. And I think sometimes we forget that when we see pattern designers releasing patterns over and over all the time, that they must have a natural talent, which obviously they do, but also that they must find it really easy. And that's not necessarily the case. Even though we know what we're doing, it still doesn't make it an easy or fear-free process. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's go back to the beginning. So, it was around 10 years ago that I started with the idea of selling my crochet. I didn't have any ideas of having a business. All I wanted to do was to make some extra cash, because my little boy was about 6 months old. I was starting to go back to work, which I needed to do because, well, I didn't really have any people around me. I had no friends who had babies, so I felt like I was stuck on my own in babyland, and my brain was melting a bit from only having nursery rhymes going around my head. So I needed the adult company. So I was going back to work, which meant nurseries were involved. I had to send my son to nursery a couple of days a week. And I mean, I know they tell you babies are expensive, but at that point it was extortionate. What I had to pay for nursery fees, even though it was only a couple of days a week, I could have rented a small flat. It was utterly insane, and so I just wanted a way to bring in some extra money to make finances easier. And because I crocheted a lot, when I could, with a 6-month-old, it made sense to see if I could make things sell. Why not? So I knew eBay wasn't a good place to sell anything handmade, but I didn't know where I could sell. But after having a bit of a Google, I found Etsy. So I made an Etsy page, made up some cute little baskets. And if you've been on my Facebook page recently, you'll have seen a picture of these 3 little baskets. They're very colourful. And I listed them on Etsy. But I didn't know a thing about Etsy. I didn't know a thing about taking decent photos. I didn't know a thing about selling. I had never been part of any business before. I had never had to, I never worked anything like sales related before. So I didn't have a clue. So I put these baskets on Etsy, and then crickets. They did not sell. And I didn't know why. Not a clue. How do you promote things on Etsy? How do you get things found? What's the right way to price things? Do you really need to add all those photos? I didn't know. So I started Googling, and Google suggested I needed a Facebook page. And then that opened up a whole other avenue because I didn't even have a Facebook profile at that point. So I got that made up, and Google gave me tips for taking photos. Etsy itself had tips for writing good descriptions. And of course, I fell into the oh so common mistake of just keeping lowering my prices. And eventually they did sell. It took about 4 or 5 months, and they sold for a pittance, which I was really disappointed about. But then that got me into, well, how can I stop that from happening again? And one of the things that I also found was that having my own, and I wasn't really a business at that point, I didn't consider it a business at that point, but having my own little kind of side hustle thing, it helped give me an identity outside of being mum, because my entire world was revolving around a 6-month-old and work, and I felt I had nothing else. But this gave me something that made me not just mum. And it became really important to me. And that's one of the reasons I kept it going and I kept learning things, because I needed something other than working and then being mum and something in between. I had to have something of my own, and it became part of my identity for a while. But it was really important to me, and I did want to learn more, and I did want to sell more, and I want this goal of, contributing more to the family finances. That need was still there. So I kept on. I kept making things, listening to sell, trying to learn how to do things better. And, eventually the sales started coming in. Eventually it all started paying off and it all came together. I mean, that age-old problem of pricing was still an issue. But I was getting regular orders. And this carries on for a few years. Until it wasn't fun anymore. My crochet started becoming a chore. It didn't feel good. It felt like I was forcing myself to crochet. I didn't want to anymore. I was avoiding posting on my Facebook page because I didn't want the orders to come in, which of course then meant I wasn't making the money. And I got to really starting to hate orders coming in because I hated making the same thing over and over. I mean, don't get me wrong. On the one hand, I was very, very grateful. I really was. But on the other, I was not enjoying it anymore. And then we got a new dog. If you've seen pictures of my dog on Facebook or on the blog, it's a husky. I didn't know anything about huskies. He was the other half's idea. And I had no idea how much fur they shed. I was not prepared. I mean, I've had dogs before, but not like this. And the amount of fur that he shed, it just meant selling my crochet wasn't viable anymore because I couldn't keep the fur away. It got everywhere. It still gets everywhere. You take it out the house with you and it collects in other people's houses. It's insane. And so I still wanted to make money for my business. I still wanted my business to exist. But selling what I made, getting the husky was the final nail in the coffin, really. So it's like, well, I've got to change or I've got to quit. What's it going to be? But what I'd always done was, if I was making something to sell, I tended to create my own patterns so I had something unique, which meant I had a load of designs waiting. All I had to do was get them written up properly and I could sell the designs I already had. So I started doing that. Now, in theory, writing a crochet pattern is very simple. You simply write down the instructions that you would want to have if you were reading a crochet pattern to make. You write everything down that you do. It's like most things. In theory, it's really easy. In practice, well, it takes practice. And you've got to learn the process. Now, my first patterns sold really well. And thankfully, I discovered how to get tested pretty quickly. But the fear came in. And that fear has never actually left me. I still fear the process. I don't actually fear releasing the pattern itself. I fear the testing process. Because the testing, your testers find all the things you missed. And part of you feels guilty that you missed it. Part of you then starts having imposter syndrome because surely you should have seen that. It was really obvious. And for me, it starts these feelings of being a fraud. Even though the testers are all really lovely, they never ever give any snarky comments or anything like that. They are absolutely lovely. All that comes from me. And so it's never easy. And right now I've got about 3 patterns stuck in the writing process because I'm terrified of the testing. So I've got to get them out. And the more complicated the pattern, the worse this is. So I tend to work with my fear. I tend to release quite simple patterns. But making that leap from selling the crochet that I made to writing patterns was a big one. It was a massive change. I have never regretted it. Not for 1 minute. I have never ever regretted it. It was the best decision I ever made for my crochet business. Within 6 months, I was earning 3 times more than I was by selling my crochet. And I was far happier. But that doesn't mean it was an easy thing to do. And I know it's not. You're going to apples and oranges. Although it's still crochet, it's completely different. And it is a different way of working. It is a different sales process. There's a whole process to go through. But what is the same as selling what you make is that you still need to take the photos that get people's attention. You still need to promote your patterns the same way as if you were selling what you made. You've still got to do all that. You've still got to promote it, whether it's on Pinterest, on Facebook, on Instagram, getting some YouTube videos out, no matter what it is. You still have the same options for promoting. You still have to take the pictures. The majority of the work is the same. The difference is the process you go to create it. The difference is that you do the work once and you sell that file over and over again. Selling what you make, you do the work once, you profit once. Then you've got to do the work again and profit from it only once. So in the long term, there's less work involved because you do not have to, do a load of work before you can make any money. That file will always be sitting there that you can sell over and over again and repeat. But you do have to go through a process of getting it written. Well, first you've got to design it. You've got to come up with the idea in the first place. Then you've got to get it written. Get it tested. Scary overload. Get it edited. And then release it. So there is a process, but unlike selling what you make, there is a customer for every crochet pattern you can think of. There is somebody out there who will buy it. Not the case for selling what you make. That is a risk that it will not sell. But you've got more certainty of making sales with crochet patterns. There are so many more customers out there waiting to buy a pattern that as long as you promote it properly, you are guaranteed to make back the money for the time you spend making it. there is more profit to be had from writing crochet patterns. So there's a ton of benefits to doing this, but that doesn't make it an easy thing to turn to. You don't even have to have good tech skills to write crochet patterns, because these days the tech is really easy. You don't even have to know how to make a PDF, a pretty one. You don't have to have incredible fonts. You don't have to have something that looks like it's professionally made. You can take a Google Doc, simply save as a PDF, and that's it, you're done. As long as it has the information that your customers need to create that pattern, jobs are good 'un. And it's the fear, I think, that stops people from writing crochet patterns. But that fear does not need to stop you. And this is why I created my course on how to write crochet patterns for beginners. Because I'm going to take you through everything that I wish I knew at the start. I'll walk you through how to choose designs that your audience are going to love, how to get everything written out so you can get it sent for testing, how to find your testers, how to edit your pictures, how to go through the testing process, how you know you got it written out properly, the whole shebang. And it's done in 4 easy steps that you can just follow along to. It's not meant to be overwhelming. It's not meant to take you forever to go through. You can go through the entire course in less than 2 hours. And you got templates in there, you got checklists in there, all to help you out to make sure you got everything you need to get your first crochet pattern written and ready for publishing. And it's as simple as that. So if you want to get started writing your own crochet patterns, but you're afraid of how you're going to do it, and you're afraid of the process and think that you can't, then take a look at my course. You can find out more about it at crochetbusinessschool.com/patterns, and you get instant access to everything in that course. So if you have any questions, you can message me at hello@crochetbusinessschool.com, and I'll answer any questions you have. But otherwise, if you're ready to stop selling what you make, you're ready to start making more profits from your time and stop being, tied to your hook and feeling like your crochet is a chore, then crochet patterns could be for you. So I hope to see you in the course soon. And it is the best decision you can make, because it really does make life so much easier, and it gives you back the love for your crochet that you feared you'd lost. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Crochet Business School podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes, and please subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Crochet Business School. Subscribe to the channels, because I would love to hear from you and what you're up to in your own crochet business. If you have any questions about creating and growing your own crochet business, please send them my way, and I'll answer them in future episodes. So thank you for joining me, and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye for now. With over $20 million worth of sales taking place every year, the crochet pattern industry is huge. Crocheters are always hungry for new designs, so you have a ready-made audience waiting for your patterns. Get started writing your own crochet patterns now with my Pattern Writing for Beginners course, where you get access to all of my years of pattern writing experience, together to take you through the process step by step so that you can start making sales on automation. Discover more now at crochetbusinessschool.com/patterns.